Alright guys, I'm about to show you some absolute wild delusion by Dana White. You guys know I like to use the word delusion in my titles, in my thumbnails, but this is not an understatement, especially with what Dana White is about to say. And hey, I'll be honest, I like to side with Dana White here and there. He's a businessman. I'm a businessman. Now, granted, I haven't got a multi-billion dollar company, but I've ran a self-employed business for 14 years, and I've ran a gym for 9 years now. Oh, and I've just launched my app as well. I don't know if you've heard about that. The app is actually live, and you can go and sign up right now. Make sure you check your emails for the promo code. If you didn't get the email, send me a DM on Instagram, and I will send you a promotional code over right now. The promotion ends on Monday, though, so if you don't get in before Monday, that's it. Full price. I do like to defend Dana White, and I try and look at it from his point of view. Like, even with the fighter pay, you can make the argument that, listen, you go to any other organisation, the fighters aren't getting paid what the UFC is paying. Now, granted, you can get sponsorships in those other events, and that probably bumps the money up significantly. But in terms of opportunity and brand exposure as a fighter, there's nowhere better than the UFC, PFL, Masvidal FC, Eagle FC, Bellator, where's that gone? That's merged with PFL. You got Cage Warriors, and then after that, the list gets pretty thin. That was a big way of me just saying that I like to defend Dana White sometimes, and I like to look at things from his perspective. However, what he says in this interview on this podcast is completely undefendable. It's unforgivable, in fact. Right, so Dana White was on the Nelk Boys podcast, and this conversation kind of started with Kyle from the Nelk Boys saying about the UFC, the way it wasn't allowed in a lot of states, and now look at it. And Dana White starts comparing that to Powerslap, and him and Bob Menery, this guy right here, who's a bit of a pain in the backside. I've never really been a big fan of him, but I'm starting to understand his shtick, if you like. He challenges Dana White, and in all honesty, kind of owns Dana White. Now, I've got to chop this up a little bit because the Nelk Boys always copyright the videos.
It was not even allowed in states and countries.
You're exactly right. Yep. It is identical to what happened with the UFC. No, he's smart. You're stupid. Oh, yeah. And he gets it and you don't.
I love that. Yes, no, Powerslap is great. Everybody bow down to Powerslap.
Do you think that?
Listen, so he FaceTimes me, and he's telling me about, oh, this Powerslap thing, it's ridiculous. It's take the L on this thing. Take the L. So right now, our rights are up.
We'll buy him for a toothbrush and a bubblegum wrapper.
for Powerslap.
Joking.
And we're talking to all the majors right now on a new deal.
So the deal with Rumble you're talking about?
You just sit back and suck your lip.
Now, I don't know the inner workings of this deal with Rumble, but it's a deal with Rumble. Like, let's actually take a look at the numbers now. Alright, okay, I stand corrected because it seems like they're actually pulling in pretty decent numbers. Okay, this is actually pretty impressive, to be honest. 500,000 views, well, 600,000 views 2 days ago, 700,000 views, 800k, 840k. Damn, is this real? I wouldn't assume that they're buying views. 1.84 million. Holy crap. Okay, so these are actually pretty decent numbers. However, only 2.2k likes, 479 comments. To be fair, that's probably an okay engagement rate for Rumble, because Rumble doesn't have great engagement rates. I'll have a video on Rumble, do 1,000 views and get like 3 likes. That's kind of what you've got to expect on Rumble. So I can actually see what Dana White's on about when he talks about the numbers, because that's all he ever does talk about is the social media numbers. He's never talking about pay-per-views. He's never talking about anything really apart from impressions. And you just know that Dana White's social media manager probably just hands him a piece of paper and says, here, here's a list of all the social media impressions. And that's why when you actually straight up ask him about it, he can't really give any other answers apart from the whole social media impression answer. Maybe Dana's right on the social media numbers side of things. I mean, it is quite viral content. Does that mean it's got long-term potential? I don't know. Probably not.
Fighting's in our DNA. We all get it and we like it. And the truth is, we all like combat sports, period. There's people that hate on Powerslap all the time, and there's people that won't like it. But there's 8 billion people in the world. Mm-hmm. And out of the 8 billion, enough people are going to like it to make it successful.
I mean, that's kind of true what Dana's saying there. When you put it like that, there's 8 billion people in the world. Surely you can get a few million to enjoy the sport. And here's the thing. If we're talking about pay-per-view numbers, we all like to sit here and think, who the hell would buy a Powerslap pay-per-view? However, in the same breath, we also sit here and say, who would buy a Birds OnlyFans? Who would pay for something that you can get online for free just when you Google it properly with the right search terms? Yet people do. Millions and millions of lads do.
In this room right now, I can tell you here that you guys are the exact opposite. I hate golf. I don't like it. I respect it, and I understand how tough it is, but it's not my thing.
Because you
I
haven't
don't
learned it. You
like
gotta
it.
come play with us. You gotta play a game.
It doesn't excite me in any way, shape, or
Have
form
you ever
to
swung a
even
golf
get
ball?
out and try to learn it. I'm not a soccer fan.
Soccer is
but guess
awful.
what? Billions of people are. That's my point here, right? I don't have to like golf or soccer for golf or soccer to be popular.
Once again, fair point by Dana. See, I do well at staying on the fence and playing both sides, playing devil's advocate. Dana made a fair point. He doesn't have to like soccer for it to be popular. The same people who like Powerslap just might not be on YouTube commenting, and instead it's all the MMA fans who find themselves commenting on the Powerslap content, so that's why it seems like it's universally hated. But there's that little secret niche audience who watch it, those diehard fans. Now, I really like this point that Bob Menery makes right here.
Do well.
But isn't a sport successful when it has superstars? So you need superstars to sell sports, right? So who's your superstar?
Powerslap's so new, bro.
I get that. But
Wait,
just-
here. And also, people are.
That's a very good point. Don't you need superstars to really make a sport truly successful? And I'm sure there's some sports out there that it's not like that. But you name any sport that you think there's not a superstar in, and then a fan of that sport will come along and tell you who's a superstar in that sport. And there's no real superstars within Powerslap. However, it's a new sport. I can't believe I just said that word. It's a new event, let's call it. And I guess you could argue with the UFC marketing machine behind Powerslap, then they could certainly make some superstars out of it. But is it even possible to have a superstar within Powerslap when Powerslap doesn't really come across as a sport that requires talent? We all like watching MMA and UFC and boxing because of the skill differences between fighters. How much of a skill difference can you get between Powerslap athletes? The terminology I'm using in this video has not even changed between talking about professional MMA and Powerslap. But for the most part, it's just about who gets the first slap and who gets concussed first, which really doesn't take a lot of skill. You just got to swing your hand as hard as you can.
How much of an effect did like Paige Van Zandt have on being in this previous card?
Yeah, no, it was big. It was big. And the thing is 18 months old. What happens is this thing has been on this trajectory since day one of growth. But to try to explain to people who've never built anything before, they just don't understand how this stuff works. I've done this before. I know how this works.
He said, I've done this before. It's only 18 months old. It takes time to create these superstars. Can't really disagree with any of that. Completely agree. However, the Dana White delusion is about to ensue. Get ready. Hold on to your chairs.
And I said this before, and I'm going to say it again right now. This will be bigger than the UFC.
No chance.
What?
That's
I
how
said
long?
the UFC would be bigger than boxing. No.
That's insane. And even look at Kyle's face when Dana White says that. And Bob is the only one who's got the balls to say, no effing chance. It's not going to happen. Everyone else just stays silent in the room.
I said the UFC would be bigger than boxing. No chance.
Wait there. So Dana just said Powerslap is going to be bigger than the UFC. UFC is going to be bigger than boxing. Okay. Right, so boxing at the moment in terms of popularity globally is up here. Let's say UFC is somewhere here in the middle. Hasn't been around as long, of course, we all know that. Powerslap is right down here. UFC's 30 years, Powerslap's 18 months. Dana's basically saying that the UFC is going to overtake boxing, and I do think it will at some point in the future. I don't think we're close to that yet, but I do think it'll get there. So UFC is going to overtake boxing, but then Powerslap's going to come through and just overtake it all, and it's just one-dimensional. Get slapped, get concussed, or don't.
Because there's more variables. There's got to be
No
bullshit.
chance you would have. That's what I was asking. That's why.
How can you have something that is when I'm as an average person turns on the TV and I watch Powerslap? I'll tell you what I do. Okay, I watch match 1 and it's the same. I watch match 2, it's the same. I watch match 3, it's the same. And I watch 4, it's the same. So I'm gonna get inside the face and they're done. That's it.
Tell me what's the same about each match you watch.
What? I can't believe I'm saying this, but Bob Menery is right. There's no variety to the matches. Slap, you either get concussed or you don't. The other person slaps, you get concussed or you don't. The only variety that you really have is to what level they get knocked out. That's it. So do they just get somewhat rocked, or do they get flatlined on the floor, and then do they get up and do the chicken leg dance?
Tell me what's the same about each match you watch.
Somebody raises their right hand, they then make direct contact with somebody's face, and then somebody either falls, they don't. That's it.
So what happens when you watch a fight?
A fight, you can take somebody down, you can cut somebody's elbow open. There's
Let's say it's a boxing match. Boxing, which has been popular for over 100 years.
What? What? Boxing's got so many more variables because there's more weapons, and think about how limited boxing is when compared to MMA. That's an absolute wild statement by Dana to say, well, what happens when you watch boxing? You got all different types of punches, all different types of kicks, knees, clinches, flying knees, You got wrestling, you got submissions, you got arm breaks, you got stylistic matchups, you've got disqualifications, someone gets headbutt, someone gets gashed open. Like, there's so many different things that can happen within MMA. And for Dana White to believe that the power slap is going to be bigger than that when it's just slap, done, slap, done, slap, done.
They're throwing the same combinations.
I'm just saying I can help you.
They're throwing the same combinations.
Figure this out. You just gotta
you
give me
can't help yourself.
So Dana's making the arguments that, well, the fighters are throwing the same combinations. Once you've seen a 1-2 once, it's the same over and over again. But even by that logic, yeah, but not everyone gets KO'd with a 1-2 every single match. What Bob Menery's saying is that everyone gets KO'd with a slap in power slap, and that's what's boring about it. There's no different strikes. And then even in the UFC or boxing, fighters throw the 1-2s differently. They've got different levels of power, different speed. They throw the punches at different angles. They set it up differently. Let's talk about this. Someone might set up their right hand, throwing the jab. Someone else might set up the right hand with low kicks. Someone else might set up the right hand with body jabs. Someone else might set up the right hand by throwing hooks first and getting them used to blocking on the outside, and then they feint the hook and then go straight down the pipe. And that's just talking about the right hand. So that's where the delusion's kicking in. Dana's basically saying everyone's throwing a 1-2. Everyone's throwing the same combinations, just like power slap. Why is power slap any different? Well, I've just explained it. Also, come on, lads, time to not be fat or skinny anymore. Join my damn app. It's £1 a day, and if you've got the promo code in your email inbox or DM me on Instagram, it's less than £1 a day. But don't download it on the App Store, though, because it's more expensive, because Apple and Google take a fat cut. So sign up through my link, and I'll send you the direct app download. Don't knock the hustle.
People can get involved in this. When you take women and women start watching the UFC and it goes to the ground and all this stuff, you have to understand that it has to be explained. None of this has to be explained. And in just 18 months, it is a massive global sport.
Do you want my help or not?
At the end of the day, what I always say, what I sell is holy shit moments, right? It could take 25 minutes to see a holy shit moment in the UFC. 1, 2, holy shit in power slap.
Yeah, I get what he's saying, and I actually agree with him there as well. What he's selling is instant gratification as opposed to delayed gratification. So basically, people watch the UFC for the unknown. It's to have those unknown questions answered in the fight, whereas power slap, it's the known that you're selling. You know that someone's going to get KO'd and concussed.
It works on social. It streams well. The younger generation likes it. And, you know, it's like the UFC. The older generation didn't understand it and didn't get it and said it's never going to work.
Dana's right there. We don't know what the kids are watching these days. It's the same with like Logan Paul, Jake Paul, KSI. Everyone likes to skip them and diss them and say, who watches that crap? But then it's all the young kids. It's the next generation. You got to remember, if you're 25, 28, 30 years old now, you're old. There's a bunch of 8, 10, 12-year-olds who are watching this stuff, who are growing up with this stuff, and yet they're probably logging on to Rumble and at school going, hey, watch this person get absolutely KO'd, slapped silly, bang, oh, kids are they're stupid these days. I feel proper old. I'm an old man. But I'm still going to be in boss shape, though. Apex Athlete app. It's going to be a 5-month bulk, and then we're going to get shredded in 2025. Who's with me?
Now, I'm not being disrespectful at all, because the power slap community I respect, but at the end of the day, I'll say it as realistic as possible here. You have a bunch of no-names slapping each other, right? Yeah. So what prohibits you from inserting in people like a Bradley Martin, a Kyle?
It'll start to happen as the money gets bigger.
Right, so Bob Menery has a good point there. Why don't you start inserting more influencers into the game? Because you're getting a bunch of no-names in there. Why not get Bradley Martin in the mix? Why not get Larry Wheels in the mix? Maybe some big-time bodybuilders or powerlifters with a big social media presence. Eddie Hall, half or Beyonce. But as Dana's saying here, it's about the money, isn't it?
You know, we're D1 football players or basketball players or whatever it is, and you can come into a power slap match and you can make $250,000 in one night. Believe me, you're going to see that.
Why?
Right, so some things there, I'm in agreement with Dana White. I agree with what he's saying from a business perspective, you know, businessman and all that. But then the fact that he said the power slap's going to be bigger than the UFC, but also bigger than boxing. Come on, Dana. I understand it's your business and you've got to defend it, and you're fed up of people coming on the internet like me saying, take the L, Bob Menery, just take the L on this one, when he's probably invested a good few million into the sport. You want to prove them wrong, and that's a good way to remain motivated. And in a way, from a business perspective, I actually do want Dana White to prove people wrong, just because I relate to that. So just on a personal level, you'd always have those naysayers. You guys will have had them in some sort of way in your life, you can't do that. Nah, he'll quit that. Nah, he's not going to follow through with that. I like it when people say I can't do something, so I'm going to be like, right, F you, watch. I love proving doubters wrong. I love proving haters wrong. In fact, I remember when I had 1,000 subscribers on my channel last year in January, and people used to comment saying, your accent is preventing you from growing on YouTube and you'll never grow. And now look what's happened, 140,000 subscribers, thanks to you guys. But anyway, yeah, rant aside, what do you guys think of this? It's on 2 million views. A lot of people in the comments are completely disagreeing with Dana White. Can you see it from his side at least? Or do you completely disagree? You let me know down below. Make sure you like this video and remember to join me app. If you didn't get the email with the promo code in, drop me a DM on Instagram right now and I'll send you the promo code for 20% off, a lifetime discount, because come Monday the discount ends. I'm also going to go live tomorrow to do a bit of a Q&A for the app and just have a little bit of a chill. So if you're online, stop by, say hello, have a little bit of a hangout, and that's that. Appreciate you all. Like the video. See you tomorrow.